Start the Revolution With Me is the first episode since Season 3's Mother of the Year that Larry Hagman has directed, and it's the first of 2 episodes this season that he'll helm. If ever there were an actor's director, it's Hagman. Usually stars directing episodes of series they're on is a vanity issue, or they're trying to break into another line of work. But Hagman just seems to do it for fun, and it shows. His episodes crackle with more energy and vibrancy than many of the show's other directors. Start the Revolution With Me is no exception. Hank Johnson calls with an update on the pop-up revolution JR is funding in East Asia. The locals are upset with the communist regime that came to power the previous year because none of the reforms that were promised ever came to fruition. They may be willing to support a return to the American-friendly government they had previously. This leads to one of the best exchanges of the season between Hank and JR.
If we can make this happen the right way, we may be able to do it without spilling any blood. Whatever.
JR's C. Montgomery Burns like evil continues to shine through as he cackles at Leslie Stewart's proposed slogan for the company.
Ewing Oil, people before profits. Do you think anybody's gonna buy that?
Leslie reiterates her desire to take Ewing Oil global, and JR reiterates his desire to go to bed with her, but she's just too darn busy for him. Speaking of busy, Bobby has to fly to Oklahoma City to wrap up a deal to buy a solar energy plant, but he promises that he'll be back in time to accompany Pamela to Liz Craig's dinner party. And Bobby would never back out on a promise.
Now JR has enough ammunition to put me away for good.
I'll stop him.
1 hour later.
Pamela's mouth says she's okay with that, but her hair says that she can't go for that. No can do. Suellen and Clint go downtown to reminisce about their younger days when they were dating. The landscape may have changed, but Clint still has the same feelings for her. Suellen has to go, but promises to see him later, and then she notices a suspicious man following them. The Takapa boys interview the best architect in Dallas. Punk is ready to move right now, even with the more expensive architect. But Ray wants to see more bids. On the other side of the Takapa war, Miss Ellie and Donna tell everyone it's been a struggle to find out who is behind the development, and they send around a collection plate to fund the resistance movement.
Here are the pledge cards, and please remember, I know exactly how much each one of you can afford.
Everyone laughs, but you know she's serious.
Regulators! Mount up!
After everyone leaves, Donna tells Ellie that they're about to lose one of their staunchest allies, as Dave Culver will be headed to Washington to be a senator. Ellie fears that Cliff Barnes might be the one to take Dave's seat. At therapy, Suellen gushes about Clint and the morning they had together. Dr. Elby, as usual, has to be the wet blanket and tell her that she's viewing everything through her idealized eyes and advises her to consider what's going to happen when Clint wants more. Speaking of wanting more, Cliff is pressuring Dave to move to Washington. When Cliff leaves the room, Donna and Dave agree that Cliff is talented, smart, and highly motivated, but also likely to sell out to the highest bidder. Cliff? Sacrificing his morals for money and power? No, that just wouldn't happen. Again. Of course, Bobby does break his promise because those darn contracts got screwed up, and he has to stay in Oklahoma City for the next several days to get them figured out. This causes Pamela to reconsider Suellen's advice to have an affair with Alex. That's why her hair is so big. It's full of secrets. JR makes a more aggressive play for Leslie Stewart and gets shot down, so he turns his sights to Luella, whose new husband just happens to be out of town. Let's take a detour. Robert William Redding, nicknamed Jerry, was a chemistry teacher who began experimenting as a hairstylist using household items like vinegar and mayonnaise to make his own products. Using a scientific approach to hair thanks to his chemistry background, Redding created products that were pH balanced for a woman and began marketing them using his nickname, Jerry Redding. Redding also created the hair care companies Redken in 1960, Nexus in 1979, and in 1968, Germac, for whom Dallas star Victoria Principal was a famous spokesperson.
So go ahead, color your hair permanent. It's okay.
It was in the late 1970s that Redding's company developed the permanent wave hairstyle, or perm. It was a long, involved process and fairly expensive, but entrepreneur Comer Cottrell invented a cheaper home kit for perms and marketed the kit primarily to black communities in Dallas, Chicago, Los Angeles, and New York. And voila, the Jerry curl was born. Anyway, here's Pam looking like one of the members of DeBarge, and I think we can safely say that this exact moment is when the 1980s truly began. Miss Ellie is sure to comment on the new look and the kind of low-tech cooperative crossover a corporation only dreams about today. Pam mentions that Bobby is out buying a solar company, which surprises Ellie because usually Jock Ewing is adamantly anti-sun, and Bobby doesn't like to do anything to upset the apple cart. But then Pamela points out that Jock isn't around to care as much these days thanks to his super secret development project he's got going on. This triggers an argument between Ellie and Jock in which Ellie accuses Jock of abandoning his sons in favor of spending time with Ray on their development venture. Jock rightly says that the boys are grown up and they don't need him. Of course, he'll change his tune when he finds out that they are doing things that he doesn't agree with. In fairness though, JR could use Jock's help to extricate him from Luella. It turns out that after sex, JR doesn't want to hear about the Dallas hot goss. And Luella shows that, even after years of being his secretary, she just doesn't get him, telling him not to let Leslie Stewart get to him because he could have any woman he wants. Luella. JR is a simmering cauldron of self-loathing and patriarchal-induced inadequacy. He doesn't want women. He wants to torture himself with what he can't have. It's like you're not even watching these videos. Hey, but if you are watching these videos and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? At an elegant business dinner, Liz Craig lightly echoes Suellen's advice from Making of a President and tells Pamela she can't wait around for Bobby to wake up and start appreciating her. She has to build her own life. Liz seems to get the high sign from Alex Ward to set him up with Pam, which is odd because Liz was seemingly running defense for Pam in a previous episode. Alex also shows up with a woman named Cleo Moore who, I'll assume is a reference to the former RKO actress? Anyway, he ditches her in favor of getting Liz to isolate Pam with a special project for the store. Back at the ranch, Suellen wonders why JR is such a feminist that he'd hire a female public relations expert to work at the Ewing sausage factory. Suellen taunts him for not being able to seal the deal with Leslie.
And if you haven't had sex with Miss Leslie Stewart, it means the lady doesn't want you.
Pam arrives to a hotel room full of flowers and a neighborly knock from Alex Ward in the next room. Okay, we gotta hook up Alex Ward and Leslie Stewart. They are absolutely sucking the fun out of all the other characters. But if we can get them together, we can isolate the skeeviness and boredom into one confined area. Speaking of, Leslie is proud of her work, getting a full-page ad in the Wall Street Journal.
What's your father going to think when he finds out that Ewing Oil's become internationally known?
Well, I'm not internationally known, but I'm known to rock a microphone.
Hit it!
JR goes full Dave Petraeus, casually letting it slip that he's trying to overthrow a foreign government to get his oil leases back, just so he can impress Leslie Stewart. Leslie is actually not impressed and warns him off doing anything illegal where Southeast Asia is concerned. JR doesn't admit to anything, but he does promise to do anything he can to get his power back. And after JR is gone, we see that Leslie has been recording their conversation the whole time. Clint and Suellen come out of the Camille revival, all full of love and romance. Suellen apologizes for not being ready to consummate their relationship. She also notices the suspicious man from before still following her. Alex continues to be creepy with Pam while she's on assignment, and I continue not to buy her receptiveness. The special effects in Birdemic were more convincing. Meanwhile, stockbroker Paul tries to sell JR on taking Ewing Oil public, but Leslie advises him against it. A public company would be more open to scrutiny after all, and it wouldn't have the flexibility to wheel and deal that JR so enjoys. Leslie offers to help JR rule the world, which is like Viagra to John Ross.
I think you could run the world if you put your mind to it.
No, JR, but I'd be delighted to help you run it.
Back at the hotel, Pam is tipsy and Alex is ready to make his move. But wouldn't you know it, Bobby calls right before Alex can round first base and dumps a cold bucket of ice water on the proceedings. And the only thing he wanted with his phone call was to tell Pam that he loves her.
The sex vulture, like his mammalian counterpart the hyena, senses the presence of a more dominant male and flies off to find more fertile hunting.
Back at Ewing Oil, JR gives the go-ahead to begin Operation Totally Legal Hiring of Mercenaries to Overthrow a Foreign Government. What do you mean you want to see my wire transactions? Who the hell are you? Don't you know my taxes pay your salary? It's a working title. Alex says he still wants to see Pam, even though she's conveniently married. At the offices of Dave Culver, Dave nominates Donna Culver to be his replacement in the Texas Senate, but she declines. She says she's happy to help pick a real replacement, though. The grinding sound you hear is Cliff Barnes whittling away his teeth beneath the clenched jaw. Lucy and Mitch are still people who exist. Lucy tells Mitch that she wants to drop out of school so she can be a devoted wife to him. And Mitch tells her that she needs something outside of him to complete her. Yes, he's pompous, but he's also right. He does complain that Lucy spent too much on his birthday gift, though. A fancy case and a new microscope. After hours, JR meets with Claude Brown, played by Lynn Berman, the guy who recruited the janky 1970s version of Captain America. Brown looks like a shady guy who is trying to let the world know that he is the world's shadiest guy. Brown tells JR that once the wheels are in motion, they can't be stopped. And also, once the wheels are in motion, JR will officially be violating US federal law and could be stripped of everything, including Ewing oil. Pfft. JR is never going to be stripped of Ewing oil for hiring mercenaries. That's just absurd. Anyway, JR declares himself immovable on this issue, and with that, we're out. I said at the outset that Larry Hagman directed episodes just seem to be more alive, and I think it's because he turns the reins loose on the cast. Bobby seems more righteous, Pam more weepy, Suellen more catty, Jock more gruff, and of course JR more deliciously evil. The scene where Alex Ward clandestinely signals to Gliz Craig that she needs to set him up with Pam is a good example of how Hagman has fun with the scene. That said, everything that's not JR related is still stuck in the mud, but at least Rena Down's script shows signs of trying to get the season unstuck. Suellen has a stalker, Pam is about to get rid of her stalker, Donna is about to skid off a cliff, and Ellie's refusal to confront her feelings about Ray and Jock are starting to leak out in unhealthy ways. All good soapy stuff, but when are we going to get to the fireworks factory?